So my name is Brian David Johnson. I'm a futurist. I work at the Intel Corporation, the company that makes the chips that go inside of your gadgets and your computer. And so it's my job to look 10 to 15 years out into the future and model what it will feel like to be a human, how people will act and interact with technology. And I do that because at Intel it takes about 5 to 10 years to develop that chip. So it's of vital business importance today for Intel to know what people want to do a decade from now. My session from earlier today was called How to Change the Future. And it was actually kind of a funny story to be told at a conference like this because it was more of a personal story about how I had learned over the years that you can actually change the future. That you can use science fiction, you can use history, you can use all these different stories to create a narrative that helps you change the future and have conversations with people about the future we want and the future we want to avoid. So I think digital marketers should think about two things. I think number one is, what is the experience? So what is the experience you're trying to get across to a person, to a family, to a community, that really what marketers are, they're not selling things, they're not advertising, they're creating experiences. And I think marketers are very good at that anyway. They need to embrace that fact that they're really good at crafting experiences, and that's really, when we have a world where we're surrounded by computational intelligence, those experiences will really make products and services shine. So I think focusing on the experience is incredibly important. But I also think the other thing that's important is, what do we do with that power? What do we do with all those screens? What do we do with all this computational intelligence? What do we do with the ability to craft and design experiences for people? And I don't think it should be just to sell more stuff. We really need to actually connect with people, and selling stuff and making money and having great, awesome products, that's great, let's do that. But let's also try to touch people's lives and make their life better. Because I think if we do that, if we can make people's lives better, we can do good business, we can have great products, we can be successful, but I think if we set that bar a little bit higher, we can have a massive effect, and we really can change the future. So I think if a company wants to engage in futurist thinking, and sort of future casting, if you will, there's really a number of things that you can do. Number one, just do it. Sit down in a room full of people and ask yourself, not what do I think the future is going to be like? Ask yourselves, what do we want the future to be? Based upon real research, based upon doing the math, based upon a real understanding, but ask, where do we want to go? Not where do we think it's going to go. Don't be passive. Don't let the future just happen to you. Do something about it. Have an opinion. And really define that, and define it as a story, as an experience, so you can communicate it with other people. So then you can go out and say, this is what I think the future is going to be like. What do you think it's going to be like? And so you can actually have that opinion. I think that's step one. And another step is, when you're doing that, get as many different people in the room, get as many different people sitting at the table. That means gender, that means ethnicity, that means the type of background, that means age. The future involves everybody. And so I think the more people you can get involved, the more disparate the ideas that you can have as you start to synthesize that future, it'll be much more powerful. That story that you tell people will be much more authentic. And it's something that I think we're sorely lacking, and it's something I think that we really need. And if you can do that, now you have a mechanism to start having conversations about the future, talking about where you want to go, also about where you don't want to go. But having that conversation will actually get you there. I think some of the things I've seen at AdTech that I find particularly interesting are some of the speakers who are really embracing the idea that the future is mobile, that the future, for me, being a geek and kind of working at a technology company, it's really about distributed computing. This idea that you're going to have lots of screens, you're going to have lots of different ways of interacting with people, and actually seeing the marketing and advertising industry thinking in that way makes me very excited, because I think they're starting to see the power of it. And then the other thing that I was really fascinated by was this notion that the language that we use to talk about the products and services that we build matters. So the language that we use, that if we use war language or if we use aggressive language, that we need to change how we talk about the things that we build. We need to think about it as gardening, as nurturing, as sort of changing it. I think there's some incredible books that have been written on it that have been talked about here. And I think that's fascinating, again, that especially for marketers, words matter. and that words are very important.